Hello and welcome to the Event Bestie, the show that unlocks the magic of event planning by taking you behind and before the scenes. I'm your host, Tanya Hales. In today's episode, and for the first time in our podcast history, we were live and on the scene. Invited by the host Jam Gamble to her 4th annual Healed Hearts Empowered Voices, it was all about watching, hearing, and seeing the community build the event from start to finish. It was a beautiful experience, and I can't wait to dive into it with you. Act 1, it takes a village. 2 months of planning, 2 months of losing sleep. Gratitude is what fuels Healed Hearts Empowered Voices. Community is what fuels Healed Hearts and Empowered Voices. That is a direct quote from Jam Gamble as she was sitting in a makeup chair getting ready to host her event. But who is Jam Gamble? That part is important before we get to the what. Jam is a public speaking coach, keynote speaker, and media personality. Her mission is to empower founders, creatives, speakers, and teams to transform their voice into their ultimate superpower. Her tagline is connector of people, ideas, and energy. And that last word is right. Her signature yellow tells you everything before she even steps to the mic. Since 2016, she's led 9 cohorts of her Slay the Mic program, where she goes beyond conventional public speaking training. Jam cultivates an environment where individuals from various backgrounds learn to harness their voice with confidence, not just for the stage, but in every interaction and decision they make. Under her guidance, participants evolve into #Future Mic Slayers, embracing their unique voices in diverse life scenarios. This is all important, so stay with me. Jam envisions a world where effective communication and self-expression are not just skills, but cornerstones of personal and professional success. Her commitment to this vision makes her more than a coach. She's a catalyst for lasting change, inspiring people to live authentically and speak with purpose. In essence, Jam Gamble is not merely teaching people to speak. She's guiding them to live their truth, one confident, empowered voice at a time. 4 years ago, and probably before that, she had an idea to bring her future mic slayers, friends, families, and followers together. And 4 years and many sleepless nights later, those in need of healing and empowerment gather for that same reason. As she kicked off her event, she said this: to put an event together, to curate an event, to imagine how people are going to feel when they come in, and how they're going to feel midday, and how they're going to feel at the end. To see you all here, I'm full of immense gratitude.
But what I'm most grateful for is that without you realizing it, a lot of you paid it forward. And I want to talk about that for a second. So when you plan an event, if you've ever planned an event, first of all, planning a wedding is so much easier than planning an event. I will plan 10 weddings before I plan a Healed Hearts. But when you plan an event, there's costs that comes into things, right? And ticket pricing and all that is always my biggest stress, because I'm always trying to find that fine line of making sure I can afford things and making sure that the event is affordable for people to attend. The ticket prices were what they were so that you, without realizing it, could pay it forward to someone who needs to be in this space. We have frontline hospital staff. If you're a hospital staff, can you raise your hand so we can see you? We have some sick kid staff. We have Trillium staff in here. We have educators from the front line. If you are an EA, give us a big wave. The reason why I'm doing this now, when we have empowerment events, whether it's women empowerment or human empowerment, oftentimes there are people in that room, they don't need empowerment, right? Healed Hearts has always aimed to have every single person acknowledged and celebrated. Age, background, ability, doesn't matter. We have representation from all backgrounds in this room. Show me what other event would do something like this. So it fills my heart with so much gratitude to have people from different walks of life, from different lived experiences that we could not live together, but just connect and have great conversations.
I said this before, I was the kid who got into a lot of trouble for talking. Every report card, my mom was concerned about it. And understandably so. And so for a long time, I didn't know I had a voice, and let alone a voice that I could use for impact and be proud of it. I think for me, I was in a disciplinary meeting at work. now that I think about it, I've used my voice a lot for, keynotes, accidentally launching a TV show, all that kind of stuff. But like, I was in a disciplinary meeting at work and I was hyperventilating because my character was being attacked. And I mustered enough energy to say, ask questions for clarification. And my superintendent said, now, Jamila, no need to be aggressive. And I was proud of myself for in that moment. I felt like I reclaimed all the trauma, all the hell I've been through being in education and biting my tongue and swallowing and just being that good educator. And I reclaimed my voice by saying, do not mistake my need for clarification as aggression. And I think that, now when I think about it with the moment where I was like, yeah, that was the moment where I felt like I took my voice back and I got to keep it.
So now you know the why. Let's get into the what. Act 2, Healed Hearts, Empowered Voices Live. The last time I attended this event, it was in the evening, so I wasn't expecting the beautiful views when I stepped off of the elevator bank. There's something that changes when the sun is shining at an event. Even if you're tired, the blue skies changes your own disposition to being sunny. This is why I keep preaching about how important venue selection is for your event. You want people to feel uplifted coming in and leaving. It's a lot easier when you are high in the skies and outside looks like a place you want to be. I check in with the host with the most and ask how she's feeling. I've been where she is. No matter how many times you've hosted an event and been on stage, there's always those butterflies. An event is a living, breathing thing, or like a toddler. You can, and you do, and you will plan from start to finish for months, but it will also go in the direction it needs to go in. I anticipate there will be a pivot from the agenda from time to time to meet guests, speakers, or the hosts where they are. As I walk through the space, I see a wide variety of artwork, which is laid out to give guests an opportunity to mix, mingle, before heading to the primary space with the table and the stage. There's a story behind the art that the host has already laid claim to. A young man that she's known since he was 12, on the spectrum and not classically trained, provided those beautiful displays. This is what intention is and what a community event is, one that involves people at various levels. As the venue staff get the buffets ready, a woman enters the room heading straight for the DJ area. The woman in question, Jam's mom. I cannot tell you how much I love that her mom is the official DJ for the event. I ask her as she's running around, what made her take that task on instead of just hanging back? She said, it's something I enjoy doing and I'm always putting music together. Even with my clients, I use music as therapy and I always want to make sure that the music, down to the lyrics, matches the vibe of the event. Don't sleep on having a DJ, even if it's your mama. We don't get to chat for too long as the AV cord that she's waiting for has arrived for testing. A photographer is on the scene, but he does assist with some AV troubleshooting. Because he just has that look about him, you can tell he would lift 100-pound boxes if it meant the event was going smoothly. When I catch him giving Jam a smooch, I realize that's her other half. The event is truly a labor of family, and it's so beautiful to see. The MC for the day hits the stage, and all of a sudden, there's a person in the audience with a mic to lead us all into a chorus of Lean On Me. The first surprise and delight of the day. And if the MC didn't know, she deserves an Oscar for the shock. Now, most Canadian events now start with a land acknowledgement. I've gone on record of not being a fan of them because they feel like empty words and performative promises. But I do love how the MC tied the land acknowledgement to the event itself. It's not just about empowering our voices, she said, but to amplify and empower the voices of Indigenous peoples. The MC also asked who came solo and said that it's a great event to come solo to because you will leave forgetting that you came to the event solo. And she's absolutely right. We next get to body movement with Just to Sweat. Even though the room between the sun and the dancing, we were already sweating just 1 hour into the event. And then the first speaker hits the stage. He is probably one of the most dynamic speakers I have ever heard. And I'm not pronouncing his name because I don't want to mispronounce his name. I think that there's very important value in that, but I'm 1000% going to tag in the comments and in the header of the podcast so that you can look him up. He's the first male speaker to her particular event. And, often women-led, women-focused events, we forget we can still learn from each other. Gender diversity is okay. So, guest speaker sits down, Jam sits down. Jam gives a visual description of her outfit to the room and to the speaker, who is visually impaired. And he noted that it rarely happens. And I sat back and thought about all the events that I've ever been to, that I've ever been a part of planning. And I don't recall the last time, if ever, I've ever seen that at an event. Now, if you've ever gone to an Eventbrite and you've purchased a ticket to an event, even gone to a sporting event, you're sometimes asked, do you have any accommodations? Do you have any needs that'll make your experience good? Asking your guests what they need to have a fair, equal, and equitable experience at the ticket stage is doing something, but that is also just ticking a box. And it's super important to think about, not putting the burden and the labor on the people who have needs to tell you. It is your job as an event planner to make sure, okay, if we're going to have a lot of speakers, can we afford to have someone doing live ASL interpretation? Can we have captions on a screen behind the speakers? You're going to determine, and your budget's going to determine what you can and cannot do, but it's really important to think about, if you are claiming to be an event for all, what does that mean? Are you waiting for the people to tell you what they need, or are you going to be proactive so that when they come in, they're like, oh, they thought about me. They didn't make me do the labor for them. So I was watching and listening the guest speaker talk about his journey, his life. He had some beautiful quotables. And one of the ones that he said is, if I were to write a love letter to my parents to honor what they poured into me, protecting me from harm wasn't shielding me from opportunity. Man, listen. The finger snaps, the applause, I was just like, write that down, write that down. Such a beautiful, beautiful sentiment. And, he really walked us through the various barriers to accessibility. It's more than just physical. It can also be attitude and making sure that you're not placing the burden, as I said, on the people who have different needs. My call to action, which for me is key for any event. I love leaving empowered, but I love knowing that there's something that I should or can do, is I'm going to try and make sure that on any of my videos, I have captions, and on my texts, I have alt text, because I'm not thinking about the people who want to consume my content but can't. While I was taking notes so I can put this show together, I was also looking around the room as he was speaking, and folks were leaning forward with rapt attention. And in a multitasking world, it was so nice to see people so deeply engaged with the speaker. This is exactly what every event host should want. More importantly, not every event needs to have a Q&A. I love that his words got to be the last ones, letting them land with the audience. Now, there were times throughout the event that there were some tech woes, and you can't be rattled by it because it's just life. Remember how I said an event is like a toddler? A pro on the mic is asking for mic level changes in the middle of a fireside chat and being able to weave it into the conversation without stopping the conversation. Picking the right venue is one thing, but picking the right speakers is a game changer. The choice to have Stephanie and Jim Stavros as a couple was so important. We needed to hear both sides of their incredible story. Check out the hashtag #CFGetLoud. One of the other quotables, women in power events never have the future in the room. And this was speaking to Dana, an 18-year-old speaker who she had on the stage. And I really thought about that too. All the women empowerment events I've ever been to, planned, we never have the next gen in the room. We're always talking to each other or trying to talk to and listen from who we aspire to be like, the elders, the aunties. But the next gen needs to see this as well. They need to see that they can get there too. So it was really something for me to think about as I move forward in anything that I do that's focusing on the empowerment of women. How are we lifting as we climb? One of the things that I really also noticed throughout this event is it was a masterclass on how to weave the audience through heavy and hard conversations without making the room feel heavy. The event ends with two amazing speakers, one who had never shared her story of grief publicly, and one who was a badass entrepreneur and the definition of fake it until you make it, even if it means wearing your roommate's pants. I loved it. I loved it so much. I didn't even get up from the table from the time I sat down. I chit-chatted with the people I was at the table with. I was listening to the speakers. I was trying to make sure that my tech was doing what it needed to do. I normally don't have a laptop out when I'm at an event, but wanted to make sure I captured enough content to put this podcast together while still being present. And I was able to do both, and that is a testament to the event itself, the speakers, and how it was put together. Act 3, Community Assemble. As I mentioned in Act 1, the biggest cheerleaders in Jam's Village are participants of her Slay the Mic program. I learned from a table mate that the program is 8 weeks, which accounts for why they are such tight-knit groups. This is also why when the cohorts show up and rep their number, it's very communal, and it feels like a homecoming, asking the sororities for their roll call. Brands always talk about building a following and building a community, but this is what it means. It doesn't have to be thousands of people to start. It can start with 12, and then it can multiply. And those folks are going to be your champions and your ambassadors. They're going to drive all the way from Ottawa, like one of my table mates did. Ottawa is 5 hours away from Toronto. I spoke with another table mate who noted, she works in fintech and she's never given the chance to be around so many women. So that was why it was so important for her to show up.
My name is Alex, and I came to this event to just reclaim another opportunity for myself, being a new mom and going back to work. There's not a lot of time for me, and it's just amazing to be together in community with everyone who attended. I think everyone arrived needing something, but in the end gave so much, and it was just a really beautiful time where people shared their stories and just leaving full. So it was a really beautiful event, and a huge supporter of Jam and the community.
My name is Lydia Sakley, and I drove 5 hours from Ottawa to be here. It was super important for me to come because I've just been going through a lot of hard times the last little bit, and I knew that this would be an event where I would be welcomed. I would cry. I cried a lot. And just to be with people that, were in community together, and it was exactly what I expected it to be, and I'm so happy.
Is it your first one?
My second event.
It's Leslie. This is my first event. It's my first one that I've come to. And I am just so full of gratitude, emotion. I'm so inspired by the people that I got the opportunity to hear their stories. The community that's here is absolutely beautiful and loving and warm. I came alone and I've left with so many new friends, which is such a beautiful thing to happen. And that happens because there was an energy and a space that was created that created that community environment and made it open for all of us to connect in such a really meaningful way. So thank you, Jam, for bringing us all together and giving us this opportunity.
I was so honored when Jam contacted me to speak at Healed Hearts. One, because I was in Grenada at the time, and I should say first because I came last year, and she had gifted me a ticket to this event, just knowing everything that I had gone through, and it was very fulfilling for me, like to just be at a table with an affirming voice who I just happened to meet at my particular table last year. And then because I was playing jab with the friends that I was in Grenada with, I thought about the whole reclaiming of identity, which is so central to Jab. You got black as can be because slave owners insisted that we were dirty and that we were dirty. And by putting on the oil and rebelling in that spirit, it was pushing against everything that was denying self. And I think in grief, I think that's whether society not being sympathetic to the journey and compassionate on your journey as a griever, or just you feeling like you've lost yourself. I think it was important to speak further, whether I'm trying to hide, like I'm trying to run from it. And it just felt like the call just keeps coming to share this story, to let your testimony live. There's purpose in it. And so that's why I prayed on it. And that's what the Spirit told me. And so here I am being obedient to the Spirit.
I think what's so key is you can do things in a different way. If you've listened to previous episodes, I've said, hey, listen, make sure you have a budget. If you don't have sponsors to pay for your event, you're setting yourself up for failure. But Jam actually proves me wrong. You can have a venue that feels like home. You can lean on the people in your life to show up and give you their time, talents, labor, etc. You can have speakers. You can build in community aspects into the event, whether it's a sponsorship of a young person to come to the event, or having art, or having tables of different community groups. There's so many different ways to do it. Now, if I were to talk to Jam now, I didn't want to talk to her throughout the day and at the end of the day, because I knew that, the decompressing of hosting an event was going to take a lot and she needed the time to decompress, etc. I know that all of that is great, but, bills are still bills. And so I'm not saying chuck a budget and just YOLO. She's built up enough of a following where people will put their money where their mouth is, hop in a car, hop on a plane to show up for her. And if you are not sure that you have that, that's when you have to go back to the basics of making sure you've got enough money in your pocket to do the things that you want to do, just in case people don't show up for you. In summary, first of all, I didn't even get to mention that parking was free. Free parking. That's a really big perk. And if you're playing an event and you can have it, promote that, because it is definitely something that could be a deal breaker for some folks and something that brings people out in another way. I also have challenged myself that I'm going to make sure for the next event that we have boxes of tissues on each of the tables or in the loot bags, because you don't leave there without some teary-eyed moments. I'm really proud of Jam for what she's been able to do and put together. Moderating conversation is more than just asking questions. And the mission to heal hearts and empower voices was definitely accomplished. I also learned a lot from my first on-site podcasting. I brought all my equipment, but then lunch was too delicious and the content was too good and afternoon break is too short. So I didn't really get to do a live podcast per se. I also need to get one of those little tiny mics I see people holding on Instagram. But I am so grateful that Jam said, hey, come out to this event, chat about it, and, her hospitality in helping me heal my heart and empower my voice. And that's a wrap for this episode. Thank you so much for listening. If you liked it, text it to a friend so I know it's real. And until next time, we'll keep the red carpet ready for you.